Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the graduate education program at Trevecca Nazarene University. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about the graduate education program at Trevecca Nazarene University a person in the Department of Education, in the School of Education, Dr. Stella Simpson. And of course, Dr. Simpson, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you.
And to tell you, Dr. Simpson, how very, very delighted we are to have you here, and especially to talk about what we consider to be such a timely topic as education, and to know the activities that you've been involved in dealing with graduate education. We're certainly delighted to have you here. But before we get into Trevecca Nazarene University and other issues dealing with graduate education, Dr. Simpson, let's see if we can have you to give our audience an opportunity to get to know you by giving us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in terms of eventually leading you to the School of Education at Trevecca Nazarene University, and then we'll talk about some other things. But let's talk about your background education first.
I think that before I even entered school, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, and I had a very unique experience because I attended one school for 12 years. I went to Meigs High School, and as a matter of fact, I was I was in the first graduating class of Meigs in 1961, and I was valedictorian of that class. I think my experience at Meigs brings so much to what I do now as a teacher, because what I found there is that I had the same homeroom teacher for 6 years, Miss Ford, and that's kind of odd. But what I found at Meigs is that there was a caring commitment, not only that I learned, but they cared about me as a person. The teachers took the time to get to know my family, and they knew me, and they cared, and even once I left Meigs, they followed me through college, just that want to know, could I help? And so I think part of that made me what I am today. And once I finished Meigs, I went to Tennessee State University, got an exceptional education at Tennessee State. And I knew then that I wanted to be a teacher, so I started teaching very early, and I actually taught for 20 years. I was an English teacher, language arts, and I was teaching in middle school. You have to be a very unique person to teach in middle school because it's interesting. You don't know what the kids made. One day they walk in and you need a Mary Kay cosmetic kit. The next day they're almost like in Pampers, and they just go from one extreme to another. But it was one thing about being in middle school that I loved, is that they kept me alive. They kept me wanting to do and to learn, and they pushed me to great heights. And as a result, I was able to motivate and encourage them to learn. After teaching for 20 years, I spent the last 15 years of my career in metro schools as an elementary school principal. And I was principal for, at Tom Joy, my last school, for 10 years. I absolutely love Tom Joy, and even though I'm not in the metro system, I'm still concerned about it. My heart is still there, and I miss the kids. And I think what I bring to it is a concern that, and I have a concern, and then I also believe in them. I believe they can do, and this came from the way that I was brought up in school. So it's, when it goes back, I think everything goes back to Meigs, and the teachers modeled how things should be. And so this same kind of caring, compassionate behavior I brought with me as I went through my education. And I think it helps me in what I do now.
You know, Dr. Simpson, in looking over that and understanding the situation in most of our public schools today, and especially in the middle schools today, what do you see different in terms of what your experiences and what you think could or should be done now in reference to bringing about the same outcomes, evidently, as affected your life?
I think one of the things that I look at, and as a principal and even now as helping to prepare teachers, is that the one difference is that I think when I was in school back in the days, there was some parental involvement. Our parents worked, and they couldn't get to school that much, but there was a support for education. I used to tell some of my parents when I was principal, you don't have to be educated to value education. And if you value education, this is going to go with your children. And so now I think what I'd like to see is more support from the parents, for the school, for the teachers.
Very good. And of course, Dr. Simpson, we're making a preparation for the first commercial break. After we come back, we'll have an opportunity not only to continue this conversation, but also to talk about the School of Education at Trevecca and some of the things that you're doing there. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. The topic is the